Hello, artists. Welcome back to another Art Life Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Kelli Folsom. Who am I? I am an artist, been a full-time artist since 2011. I'm also an art teacher, art mentor, all the things, and the host of this podcast with you today. So super excited to talk about how to be a successful artist, right? This is obviously a multi-layered topic, so let's just call this, we're doing a series, okay? An ongoing series on how to become a successful artist, right? So get ready because we are about to dive into a topic that I feel like is really overlooked, and not thought about. And so I'm really going to be challenging you to think differently, specifically around what you are investing in. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about how to think about investment versus spending. We're going to talk about how to look at everything as a form of investment, okay? Not just money. I think it's funny how we just attach investment to a dollar sign. And so we're going to dive into all of those things and talking about also how to make sure that you are getting the greatest return on your investment, and just noticing day to day, what kind of return are you getting on your investments in your art business, right? And at the very end, I'm going to give you like my number one tip that I do in order to determine whether or not I'm going to invest in either a covered in charcoal here. Sorry, I just noticed that. Artist at work. Whether I'm going to invest in, say, a class or a coach or hiring somebody, right? So at the very end, I'll give you my number one tip for being able to determine whether or not I feel like it's going to be a good investment. So first, I just want to dive in with you on just looking at the word investment, right? A lot of times we think of investment in terms of, oh, we've got investments in the stock market, okay? Or we have our 401k or our retirement income, right? Or maybe we are starting a new business and so we're investing in that. So that's kind of the common way that we look at investment. And I know for me, like I never really even thought about investing or investments. That's not the way I was raised. I was raised really at poverty level for a long time. And then, we were able to kind of my family was able to kind of climb up into that middle class bracket where still everything was really framed as spending. Everything that had a dollar sign attached to it was really thought of as spending. I never heard the word investment. I never heard my parents ever saying, hey, we're going to invest in this with the hopes of getting this return on investment. Even though my mom ran a few businesses, this is just, and maybe she did talk about this, I don't know. I was just never in my field of awareness, right? And then my stepdad was a W-2 employee. So the only time, anyway, so the word investment was just not really there. And a lot of focus got put on spending so that anything with a dollar amount was thought of as spending. And here's what I know for sure, especially whenever it comes to growing a skill set, which, learning to build your skills as an artist, just technically, that is an investment, right? So whenever I went to art school, whenever I studied with people, I was making that investment, not just for the here and now, but for really long term, right? Hopefully for my entire life, right? So even though I was spending $100,000 on art school, actually I was investing $100,000 in my future. And I was paying for investing that 4 years of time to build that skill set, right? So that I could get really good at my craft, so that I could live the life of an artist, which was like my dream come true, right? So I think the very first thing that we need to do when it comes to the dollar sign things is just reframe. Just do a quick reframe. Anytime you catch yourself using the word spending, like really think about it. Is this really spending, or is this going to give me a return on investment for the long term, for my future. And there's really a quick way that we can do this, right? Whenever we spend on something, it's something that maybe has a shorter lifespan, like maybe a shirt, a pair of earrings, perhaps, food, a bottle of wine, right? Like maybe even like a trip, right? Maybe even a vacation or a trip can really be seen as just spending, because we're not really seeing like a lasting return on investment. Now, in my opinion, some trips are investments because, they are bringing in magical experiences and memories for my life, for the lifetime, right? So some trips I could see as like being investments. So that's really the main difference. An investment is going to help you produce in the future a return on that investment. Okay, so whenever you are paying for a class, you are investing in your skill set, which then later on is going to give you a return on that investment. You're paying that instructor to teach you their skill set, right? They are at a higher level than you. They are passing on what they have learned to you, usually at a much lower cost than what they paid themselves, generally speaking. And then, you are going to utilize that, hopefully, and then turn that around in the future and maybe start selling your own work, showing your own work, right? Start making money off of your own art, okay? So in that regard, obviously, it's an investment. And of course, like coaching, right? Like coaching is something, mentoring, getting business skills for your art business. These things are things I have been actively investing in myself for 4 years, since 2017. And I can tell you that every single time that I have made that investment, and they have not been small investments, they've been large investments, they have always paid off for my future. And now the beautiful part is whenever you invest in education, when you invest in skills, when you invest in your personal transformation, your personal growth, right? Like these are things that nobody can ever take away from you. Nobody can ever take away my ability to paint, right? My understanding and knowledge of what it takes to create a piece of art, right? Like that is mine forever for this lifetime, right? Unless I go blind somehow, or you know what I mean? And the same thing with business. Now, obviously with business, things do change over time. In the marketing, things like that, can shift, can change, as of course we saw with COVID. Right? That a lot of people had to learn new skill sets. A lot of business owners had to learn how to adapt, right? And that was not maybe in their wheelhouse, and they had to build new skills and find new ways of interacting with the market. Perhaps people who were only teaching in person, art teachers who only taught in person, had to learn new skills when it came to teaching online, for example, right? So sometimes there's shifts and changes, but again, once you learn that skill set, you have that skill set. And so many of these skill sets are just fundamental principles, right? Like there's fundamental principles to marketing, to making sales, right? To building a brand. There's all of these things are mostly fundamentals. And so even though the external circumstances might change or adjust, really those fundamental skills and wisdom, really it's the wisdom, right? Because wisdom is like applied knowledge, right? Now you have experience, and that's really wisdom. And nobody can ever take that away from you, right? So once you do something one time, you learn from it, then that is a skill set that no one can ever take away from you. For example, once I've produced my first book, guess what? I learned so much doing that. I learned so much creating the first book, 30 Ways to Master Still Life Painting, right? Now that is a skill set. I know how to self-publish and create and format and get a book produced, right? I'm not even a writer or a publisher or anything. I don't have any connections at all, like at all in the publishing world, right? And now I have that skill set and I know how to do that again, and it'll be even easier for me to be able to do it again in the future. For example, I just hosted the Art Stars Business Breakthrough Retreat here in Denver. I'd never done that before, right? It was a very difficult learning process for me to learn how to get that going and how to host that first one, right? And I learned so much and gained so much wisdom and experience from actually doing it for the first time, right? So in that regard, but now I'm like, whoa, I learned so much. Now I have a whole new skill set. I know how to host retreats now. I know how to book a venue with a hotel, right? I know how to get the food set up. I know how to engage with the people at the retreat, right? I know how to have, a sales conversation with them. I know how to help them break through blocks and obstacles now to help them reach a higher level. So the next one that I do, which I am going to do another one, because guess what? I freaking loved it. And we had such an amazing time last week here in Denver at the Thompson Hyatt. It was just so incredible. So yes, I am going to do another one. Super excited. And now I know I've already learned things, right? And I've learned like, oh, okay, this exercise in the workbook confused people, or this one maybe wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Let's cut that out. Or maybe it just wasn't as valuable as I thought it was going to be to people. So let's cut that one out, right? So you get feedback from these experiences. And so the return on that investment of all the time and energy and money that it cost me to host that retreat, I not only got an immediate return on that investment from, the folks who decided to work with me for a year in the Art Stars program because they got so much freaking value out of that retreat, right? So I got an immediate return on investment and immediate return on investment in terms of the skill set. And I have such a long-term investment now because now I have the skill set and the knowledge and understanding of how to do this again. So you can see where that experience and applying myself in that, now I can do that. If I choose to do that again and again and again, whether it's for art, whether it's for art business, whether it's for a totally different field one day, I don't know, but I have that skill set, right? So it's the same thing with like investing in, your business coaching or your art learning. You really want to look at it that way. So many of us, especially those of us who were raised in let's say a working class, right? We're in employee mindset a lot. We're not really in business owner mindset, right? Or entrepreneur mindset, right? So it is definitely a different mindset to have. And it does require like a belief, kind of a paradigm shift, like a change in the filter that you're seeing things through. Okay, so mine, I promised you at the end of this podcast that I was going to share with you my number one tip for deciding like, is this worth the investment? Whether that's money, whether that's time, energy, focus. So for me, the number one thing that I ask myself is, do I think in one year from now that this is going to result in growth for me? That is the main thing that I'm always concerned about. I'm not concerned about the temporary discomfort. I mean, obviously we all get concerned about that, but I find that there's two kinds of people, right? There's one kind of person that's very concerned about the cost, about the discomfort, all that stuff, right? And then there's another person who's very focused on their future. Is this going to result in growth for me? And then depending on the exact situation, so depending on the exact situation or circumstance, I'll really look at like, do I feel like this really pays off long term, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Is this going to give me skills that I'm going to pay for 1 year or for 6 months, but it's going to give me skills that last like long term, right? Like 10 years, 20 years. Those are the investments, you guys, that I like to invest in. The really long-term investments. And then sometimes there might be smaller investments that are going to give you shorter-term results. As I like to say, of course, information is not transformation, right? So just there's information everywhere. I'm giving you information right now, right? Like I'm giving you advice, information in this moment. And information, however, unless it's applied, unless it's transformed by experience and application, does not become lasting wisdom and lasting transformation. So there's other things like investing in a book, right? Investing in a book, or like a 2-day workshop or something like that, it might give you more immediate return on investment, but usually the return on investment is not as large as whenever we make a bigger commitment, right? So like whenever I went to art school and invested those 4 years, right? And a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, that larger investment ended up giving me larger returns for the long term in my future. Okay. So I think a lot of times we just a lot of times we think, oh, this is kind of a quick fix, or I'll just sign up for this little workshop, or buy this little course, or buy this book. And so the thing that I really like to look at is, do I really feel like this is going to give me a long-term return on my investment, whether it's 10 years from now, 20 years from now, even 5 years from now? And that's how I make my decisions, especially the really big decisions, the things that do have that bigger dollar sign attached to it. So that is my number one tip, everybody. Think long term whenever you're thinking about your investments, and just reframing spending to investing. It's interesting. At the retreat, there was someone who was saying that their partner liked to spend money on this hobby of, purchasing this item for their hobby. And but they were qualifying like investing in the business program as both of those things as spending. So to me, it's like one is spending and one is investing, right? Again, spending on something that is going to not last and not build skills and not build wisdom, right? It might be providing a lot of enjoyment. I don't want to, obviously belittle that, because those things are important. Getting my nails done makes me happy, right? Things like that. Getting massage, makes me feel super good. But those investments I'm getting an immediate return, and the return is not long lasting, right? Like it's kind of fleeting. So I'll leave you with that, artist. I hope that this has been helpful to you. I know sometimes we can just get in the decision weeds about things, and I think clarity is so rare these days. Most of the time we just don't even give ourselves a chance to sit down and try to reach that clarity, right? Which is also why having a teacher or mentor, or somebody in your life that can help you with that, ask you good questions like, is this going to give you a long-term return on your investment, is good. Good to have a friend or a partner or a mentor or somebody that can kind of help you think a little bit differently, right? And look at things differently. Okay, my friends, I hope that this has been helpful to you today, artists. As always, we'll have all the links for you in the show notes below. So check all of those out, all of the offers that you can take advantage of that will help you become a more successful artist and build a more successful art business as well. Until next time, wishing you all happy creating, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.